going back to the office, if you will.
Yep. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't missed them or anything like that. So no problem.
And then you and I should probably have a conversation about the comptroller report.
Yes. I did get your email. I have not yet been in touch with her about getting that set up, but I did get your.
Okay, perfect. I don't think there's any rush to it, but they've kind of changed their approach to that. So just let me know whenever you want to discuss that.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming, and
thank you.
At least you don't have to drive home from Morton Grove now.
I know. I've rarely been to the gas station. There's nowhere to go, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, have a good night, everyone.
Great.
You
Thanks,
too.
Brian.
Stay well, stay healthy.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. So then we're going to move on to Tiffany and Dan are also on, if you guys see. And I mean, not that the audit isn't exciting to talk about, but the YS renovations are just a tad bit more exciting, a little more colorful at least. So, so Tiffany and Dan, thank you for both being here. This really, I mean, I feel like this is something that we've all been looking forward to for so long. So this is something I think we all really want to hear about, because this is like a shining light at the end of a seemingly very long tunnel right now. But so I'll let you guys take it away.
So Tiffany and Dan, just before you get started, the trustees also I made a PDF of your PowerPoint, the most recent one that you sent me, as well as the spreadsheet, and then a copy of the contract just for their review, if they wanted to vote on that tonight or whatever. But so I don't know how you want to do it, if you guys want to share your screen, if you want to refer them to the PDF. So I'll let you guys, because I think as panelists, you should be able to share your screens if you want. You do have copies of the renovation plans too.
I can share my screen, but I just tried and it says the host has disabled it.
Oh, hold on.
We'll just go through it on the screen here.
Okay, or I just made you co-host, Tiffany, so. Did that work?
Okay. Okay. So we did some renderings to show how this space would look with the floor plan that we came up with. We did two options. We tried one where we put the ceiling in like it is today, and we tried one where it's exposed. And Courtney and Pam really liked the one we're about to show, just because everything's so low down there and that there's not a lot of headroom. So we've gone back and forth a little bit, and we'll show you where we are today. This is the floor plan, which we've tweaked a little bit since we met with you last time, but not a whole lot. I'll just go through it kind of quickly. From this elevator here, we have the tween room where your boardroom is now. We're opening it up, which you'll see in the images. We're looking at structural modifications to this wall here in a few spots, so that you can, from the desk right here, you can kind of see back in there, and then coming from the elevator, you can see a little bit back, so they're not completely hidden. And then the taller collection, the fiction and nonfiction, is right here. You will see books when you come through from this side, and then there's seating for the older kids right here, so the upper grade school kids. The desk right here, and the AV collection in this nook. And then down in here and here is all the youngest kids with the picture books and the early reader. And the current story room would be made into the activity type room. Then coming back, we looked at a restroom renovation, and we added this quiet room, which can be used either for nursing mothers or kids who need just some time. I guess, or I don't know if you want to ever use it for a tutoring room or anything, but it's just a flexible room that can be used for several things. And then we turned the staff area into a larger activity room than what you have now, quite a bit larger. So if you compare this size to this over here, that gives you an idea of how much bigger it is. And it has storage in it, which you don't have right now. A sink and a counter in here, and stroller parking and more storage right here. And then we turn this back area here where Ed is into the youth office where the workroom is and Courtney's office is. And then the staff lounge is larger than it needs to be. So we're proposing, if you look back at the existing plan, there's some kind of unused space back here and it's just not planned the best. So the eating part is right here and then there's some lounge chairs over here. So we're proposing putting it all in this space, and then Ed's office would be right here with some building storage behind him. I'm going to skip to the renderings before I go to the cost slide. So this is, you've just walked through the elevator, and that's where the story room is right now. We're putting a window in there, so you can see into that activity room that's behind there. Here you can get a view of how the ceiling looks. So we'd expose it and paint it, and we've got some acoustical panels and lighting showings. And then we would probably paint some of the pipes that are in there to add some interest for the kids. And here you're looking kind of from the activity area beyond. Again, this is right coming from the elevator, looking towards the desk. To your left is the youngest kids in the patio. So this will all be the low book stacks over on this side. And then again, this is the picture books areas. Now we're looking from the desk towards that elevator. Middle school room is back here. And then that activity room is all opened up, so you can see back in there too. And this is looking at that activity room from the main collection area. So we'd line it with picture books and then just do all kinds of fun stuff in here. And we could kind of create its own environment in there. And this is from the elevator, just giving a little bit of privacy to the, or perceived privacy to the teens. So this is that glass wall where we're opening up quite a bit. And then this is the activity room with acoustical panels again, and just a little bit different aesthetic than the rest of the space. So it stands out with a hard surface floor, flexible tables in here. And again, lots of countertops and storage. And that's looking into it from the corridor. And then this is, you know, going past the desk. We had these study nooks here that can be used for tutoring or just studying. And then we thought this wall leading back to the activity room, that's the activity room right there, that could be used for artwork and kids artwork. If whatever they make in that room, you could display right here. And you could also do displays of what your programming is going to be. We did a cost estimate for doing the project all at once. And we came up with basically 1.4 million for the whole project. And Pam wanted us to break out different areas in case you decided you didn't want to do it all, or if we want to bid it with alternates. And then you could decide on bid day if you don't want to do it all. So we just kind of broke out different areas. So we thought you would definitely want to do this area in green for sure, in full. You'd get the new shelving, you'd get the new furniture, we'd do the carpet and the lighting, and get all the collection and seating in place. So that would be 1.2 to do all of that. And then everything else breaks up into smaller projects. Some of these were a little bit outside the 1.4 of the base project, like this patio was kind of in addition to that. And I can show you the spreadsheet. And then doing so these yellow areas here, they were not included in the 1.4. We were going to do the minimal possible to get them in place. And then we thought if you couldn't get in the full 1.4 project, you could leave this room as is and get the tweens in there. And then later on, go do the structural work required in there and change the lighting and the flooring. We also thought we could kind of get the staff in here in a real minimal way and just open up this space at the beginning and then build the room later if you wanted to do that. So that's what we listed it as, 200,000 basically if you want to do that separate down the road. We prepared a contract for you, assuming that we would design the project in full. And then if you decide as we get further into design development or construction documents or even at bid time, you don't want to do the whole thing, we can either change our fee or we could bid the whole thing and with alternates, and you could decide at that point. And we could talk about how you would want to do that. Does anybody?
Everybody's muted.
Any questions, comments?
I guess I have one question, I mean, and I know that I talked with you guys briefly about this, when everything started happening with the coronavirus and stuff. I mean, obviously some of the potential funding that I was planning on, I may not have now just because we don't know, when patrons will be in the building again. I guess if you could talk a little bit more about, what would be the next steps that we would do do you go ahead and design it out and say, here's part of your, just so that we've got the full plans, and then, let's say we get to a point where we're like, okay, either we have to do it in phases because of funding reasons or whatever. I guess I'm curious how you're signing the contract as it is. What does that lock us into, and what are the implications if we have to change something like that? Does that make sense?
So right now we would be, if you signed it, we would be slowly designing the whole thing. And it would take us, I don't know, let's say it took 5 months to be out ready for bid. So if any time during that 5 months you said, we know we don't have this dollar amount and you need to stop on the activity room, we can change our fee accordingly. But if that doesn't happen and you get to bid time and you decide at that point, our fee would be, of what we sent you, would be charged up to, it's 80% of 80% of our fee gets us to the end of construction documents.
Okay.
And we could bid anything you want as alternates, and we could see how bids come in, and you could decide at that point. And then when it gets to construction administration, I mean, the fee can change a little bit, but.
So really, at least initially for that, say that first 5 or 6 months, the only thing we're really locking ourselves into would be your guys' fees then, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's no negative implications for us to kind of put a halt on things if we need to at that point. I mean, beyond the, but
No.
in terms of contractually.
Oh, no.
No.
Okay.
And the contract allows you to terminate at any time and just pay us for services up to date.
Yeah, right. It's not as if you sign on and then, we're obliged.
Well, I skimmed it over, and I've done this a few other times and not been in. So I just wanted to
No, it's a great question.
especially because right now things are so crazy. So I just want to make sure that I'm protecting the library the most, and then also that we don't get to a point and you guys are kind of hanging out to dry too. So I just want to make sure that I had a full understanding of what the implications were.
Right. And we always only bill you after work is done. We don't pre-bill you for anything. So if you told us to stop it, it would be pretty easy.
And just for everyone's information too, a couple of things that we've been hearing. So on other projects that either have a CM already or CMs that we've worked with in the past, and we're just kind of getting information from them. Most library projects that we have that were starting construction or under construction are moving along. And actually it's been really fruitful for the libraries because they're getting a ton of work done ahead of time, you know, while the library is empty. And I know we're a little bit beyond that, but the labor market is pretty flush right now, which is good. And they don't see that changing very much. And the only issues that they've seen so far has been the availability of either items from overseas, like LED boards, some lighting, but in terms of labor and costs going up exponentially, they're thinking that that might be a little bit of the reverse at this time, that there may be a kind of shortage of work when people come out of this, and especially because the libraries are essential, you guys can move ahead kind of regardless of what's happening in other places. So we have seen that as a positive. I know, and again, we're pushing that boundary a little bit with 5 months going out to bid, but it has been good so far for, ironically, been good so far for our projects.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard from other people that it's the same thing, you know, other libraries in the area that are doing construction, and actually the workers and the construction managers, they've all loved it because they've been able to go in, and
no
many
phasing.
of those projects are ahead of schedule now because they haven't had to work around patrons and, you know, the library being open certain hours and stuff like that. So
Yeah, the idea of phasing is really funny because, I mean, I would say 90% of our projects are phased and owner occupied, and that just has gone out the window. So it's really just getting the lighting and the carpet and things that have long lead times there on time, you know, or changing the phasing so that you can work around that. It's been really interesting.
Well, this perspective helps just because you know the first thought I had was that, I mean, the world is so, there's no roadmap to what we're going through right now. We
Right.
don't know what the next you know, 1 month, 2 month, 12, you know, it's everything's so unknown. So hearing the whole you know, sign this contract now and then out to bid in 5 months, like the whole uncertainty of where everything could be. It's helpful to hear the perspective of not only the construction part of it, but yeah, but I guess you know the concern that I just have is that because, you know, again, because of all the uncertainty, in 5 months, do we feel you know, comfortable, you know, moving forward, not knowing what is coming next, kind of thing? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, one of our clients, Prospect Heights, it's obviously you guys all know each other. We're actually starting to look at furniture with them currently. And as you can imagine, that's a pretty hot topic of, you know, a 4-person table in a public space right now seems a bit absurd if it's not your family sitting around you. So we're really taking a hard look at exactly what furniture types we're choosing for the projects. And then even if we buy some of it now and wait on some of it for later, because we want to make sure we have the social distancing built into the spaces downstairs. The one thing that's nice about youth areas is that they really have a character of their own, kind of. And what we're in this project, what we're doing is expanding your programming ability, which can always be used as a multi-purpose room also. So, you know, it's funny that large groups might not be the first thing coming out of the box, but I think getting the other things in place is always going to be beneficial to the library, whether it's 6 months from now or a year from now or a year and a half from now. Do you know what I mean? Like this area down in the basement kind of needs that touch, that upgrading. And I think it's going to be relevant kind of regardless of how we, what comes out of it after COVID.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we all know that we want this. This is a priority for all of us. We all want this to be done. But so just for, you know, for everyone's understanding, the signing the contract today is basically just moving forward with the next step with you guys in terms of the planning. It's not necessarily, you know, saying that we want to spend this much or deciding on, you know, specifically what spaces we're agreeing to, and am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. At the end of this, you could do none of it, and we hope you don't. But that would 100% be your what's the word I'm looking for? Prerogative. And as Tiffany was saying along the way, if something drastic happened And I mean, quite frankly, our fee isn't the largest part of the project by any means. So trying to get that roadmap in place seems like something that could be good for you guys to understand the cost and what the implications of each of the spaces are. And then at the end of it, we could put some of it out. We could put all of it out, as Tiffany was saying. It really, it's entirely up to you guys. And anytime along the road, that same thing is up to you.
Can I ask, is there a cost savings for us to do the entire project at once versus in phases?
Yes. A lot of it's going to be just because of if you have a construction manager and supervision, if they have to come back and supervise a small project, you're going to pay a premium for that.
Yeah, so I was trying to get a sense of
Yep.
what the savings would be, just so we can make an informed decision.
Well, at that point, Pam had talked a little bit about hiring in a CM at some point. And they'll absolutely let you know that if you do it in 3 months, it's this much. If it's 6 months, it's that much. But we, like Tiffany says, it's what, $25,000 a month it can be, or that amount.
Yeah. Did you guys, you have this spreadsheet? Everyone has this spreadsheet that I have up? You received this in your board packet? Yeah, okay. There's this line here of
We're
construction
still seeing
manager.
the PowerPoint, Tiffany.
Oh, because when I hit share screen, it had me just share. It had to say which file I was sharing. Well,
Can you
there's
close
a
that?
construction manager line item in that spreadsheet. And on the overall project, I had it for 4 months. And then in the individual projects, I still had the base project at 4 months, but then each of the little ones had additional time. So that's where you're seeing it. I mean, it's in the range of $20,000 or $30,000 extra for each of the little projects, just because they'll probably charge you a month. So that's really the main cost of what it would be extra for you.
So if we broke it out to 4 separate phases, we could be looking at like an additional $100,000 to $120,000 for
If
the
it was
for the
a bunch of
CM
little
fees.
projects. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Does
And-
that
and-
help, Lima?
Yeah, that's a huge difference, so
Yeah.
thank you.
And beyond that too, and this one's a little bit harder to calculate, but if there's a larger project, your bids tend to be a little more, let's say if there's a larger scope of work for the electrician, they tend to sharpen their pencils a little bit more. If it's a lot of little small projects that have to keep coming, you tend to have a little bit of savings on an economy to scale too. And again, that one's a little bit harder to quantify, but we just find that the cost per square foot can go down a little bit once the projects get a little bit bigger in terms of scale. So if we do all the millwork at once, all of the electrical at once, it could be phased, but if it's all under that same construction contract, it tends to be, you get a little bit of pricing too, just in our history.
And then in terms of the current environment and availability of labor, what would your estimate be for total completion time required to do this entire project, say if we started in the fall?
You had 4 months, right, Tiffany?
Yeah, if you're not fully open by then, and we could, it's just going to depend on how much of a chunk we can take at once.
Yeah.
I think it would be 4 months if we could do the whole thing at once.
Yeah.
We need to split it into chunks. It might take a little longer.
Okay.
I agree.
Thank you.
Those are good questions, Lima. Does anybody else have any questions? I know it's the format is hard, but questions on the cost estimate or anything on the PowerPoint here?
And Courtney is also on the meeting, if anyone has questions about use of the space or anything like that for her or for myself as well, if you wanted to talk about that at all. Carlotta, I think I might have interrupted you, so my apologies.
No, that's okay. But as long as Courtney is okay with this, to me, she's the most important person, right?
It always feels good to hear.
Well, you're the
But
one
yeah.
that's gonna live there, not me. And it looks wonderful,
Yeah. And it does, I know I said this before to you all, it does fix a lot of the issues that we face daily in the library. And I feel like it serves the public, it serves us as staff. And I think it does a good job of making the best out of what we've got in the basement.
I do want to talk a little bit about kind of what the future may look like. My crystal ball is just as broken as everyone else's, but obviously, as I'm sure the board is aware, I have been thinking about this a lot and attending 3,000,002 meetings about it. But while I feel like, you know, our immediate future and even say the next couple of years is, you know, there's going to be the social distancing and those kinds of things that are going to happen and that we're going to have to incorporate into how we use our space. But, you know, I think what Dan and Tiffany have said that, you know, a lot of this space is really super functional in this plan. And I do feel like while right now everything feels really unknown and you know, we're never going to be able to gather in large groups again and stuff. I mean, I think eventually we'll get there again. You know, in 5 years we'll be back to doing these kinds of things, I think. And so, you know, we've talked about this a lot of times, is that this is the building that we have, and knowing that there isn't going to be, you know, we're not going to pass a referendum to build a brand new building or whatever. You know, what we want to do, what I want to do is make sure that the building is functional for us for as long as possible. And I feel like this, you know, in combination with what, you know, we did a few years ago back on the main floor and the mezzanine level, you know, nothing was ever done with YS. And so to make these changes, I think really positions us well for the future for quite some time to come. And because there is a lot of flexibility built into it, I feel like it can serve us in a number of different ways, no matter where we're at in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years.
Well, I agree with you on that, Pam. I mean, we don't know what the future is going to bring, and I mean, I don't think we have 100 people in the basement at one time, other than if you're having an activity, and you don't even have that many. But so it's, you know, we just have to work with what we can work with.
I think also, just kind of jumping in, the timing of it is kind of, it sounds really weird to say nice with what's going on, but knowing that people are going to have to be socially distant, and it's likely that the near future, it's a lot of like in and out, quick, grab a book, get out kind of situations. Having the construction go on during that time is a little bit convenient. And then when people can be gathering in bigger groups, we have this awesome space for them to do it. I joked with Pam that like our grand opening for the basement will like coincide with actually being able to be around that many people. So it could be, you know, kind of nicely timed there. But just knowing, like Pam said, that, you know, we're planning for what we envision is going back to be hopefully the future of what we're doing. And the nice thing is, based on what I'm seeing out of the YS staff and their creativity over the last 2 months, kind of trying to come up with things to do over the summer with people when you can't be near them, I don't think we'll have trouble serving the public in the interim. So I think the timing of it actually ends up being a little bit nice. So anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree. I think that, I mean, a big construction project really can be a pain for some people. And I know that we were already thinking of the timing of, you know, after summer reading and that kind of thing. But the fact that there's already less people in the facility to begin with, and it's so hard to see through this fog. I agree with you, Pam. It's so hard to just, you know, yeah, we're gonna be able to go out to dinner one day, right? Like all the normal things that we all want to do, you know, all the strangers that, I mean, Dan, I don't know you very well, but I miss you, you know, like you just miss the strange, you miss all that. So, but we will get there. So we will get back to the normal function. And I know that this is kind of what we are hoping to see. So, yeah, does anybody have any other questions or thoughts for Tiffany and Dan? So,
No, no.
no, we're feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm just, are you like raising the ceilings? Or I just I can't visualize the ceiling as it is right now. I'm looking at the picture and it looks like the pipes are below everything. Or are you just leaving that the same and painting it different, or how do?
So right now you have ceiling, so what you're seeing in this image is the structure of the building painted. And then we're putting lights and these sound panels in between the structure. And the pipes are below, but right now you have ceiling tile that covers all this, and it makes it feel even lower because you're not.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
you're going to take that down so it will make the ceiling. Okay, because I don't. Okay, now I see it. Now I understand what you're doing. The pipes look lower.
Yes.
Like you've dropped the pipes or something. Okay, I see that now.
The pipes are that low, Carlotta. It's just right now they're covered up. That's why the ceiling is so low
Right.
downstairs. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that I think we all agree that we want to try to do is give that space a more open feel. And
Right.
as Tiffany said early on, they did show Courtney and I an image where the ceiling was again kind of just a normal ceiling, and Courtney and I both agreed that we liked the open option better because it did have a sense of openness in a way that a standard ceiling did not.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Any other questions? Okay. Well,
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I mean, before we, Pam, before we let Tiffany and Dan go, or do we want to just keep in contact with them? Do we want to chat further before we approve the contract?
I mean, they don't have to be here for that motion. I mean, I guess the next thing would be is if the board is comfortable with at least proceeding with, fleshing out the plans, their portion of this, and we can kind of see where we're at. And, I mean, obviously I'll be in touch with them, and Courtney and I will be in touch with them over the next few months as, I look at where all the monies are going to, how that's all going to shake out and stuff. But, I mean, I feel like if the board it feels comfortable voting, I'm sure that Tiffany and Dan would like to know that that was either approved or not. But it's whatever the board wants to do. So
Yeah. Well, usually I can read the room, and like look at people's eyes and kind of see how everyone's feeling about it. And so it's, a little different now, but little nods, we're feeling like, yeah. Okay. All right. So just for like the, since this is just moving on to the next step that we want.
Emily, I think Mick started to say something.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Mick.
So are we going to vote or what? Because I've got reservations actually.
Okay. Well, then why don't we thank Tiffany and Dan for their time. Thank you both.
Okay.
And we will be in touch.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or anything, Pam, just let us know. And even if you want us to get back on, we'd be more than willing.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Now we're back to a regular screen. Mick, did you want to share anything now? Do you want to hold?
Well, I mean, if you want me to now, that's fine. I just, it gives me serious pause to do anything right now, just because of the optics of it. People are losing their jobs and things like that. I don't feel comfortable approving this myself. I mean, if you guys, I'm going to turn the light on here. I mean, if you guys want to vote it, that's fine. I would just like to have my vote recorded that I voted against it, doing anything right now.
I hear you, and I think this isn't meaning that we're starting construction. It's just moving on to the next phase of what Tiffany and Dan would need to do to proceed. We can continue on our conversation definitely, and I think it's. I get it. It's hard to wrap your head around, planning for something when there's so much up in the air and there's so much There's people out of work. This is maybe not the top priority for some people. So I mean, so I get it. So we can definitely table this.
It does. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, we can vote now. I mean, you guys, you vote for it. Let's go for it. I'm fine with that. I would just like my reservations recorded, and I'm not going to vote for it.
Mhm.
That's fine. I'll go with whatever you decide.
Yeah. Is there, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, I mean, I guess I just want to make sure that you feel like you're sharing your concerns and,
I totally do. I
yeah,
totally do.
okay.
And I don't know. It sounds like from those that we've heard from, you guys don't share that, and that's fine.
So
I mean, I want this, believe me, and I loved seeing the plans whenever that was, November or December. I just right now, and I mean, my family's great, but I know a lot of people that aren't. And I just think it would be in poor taste, to be completely honest with you.
One of the things that was discussed during the webinar, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, was that it helps to look long-term and look at future. And I think this project allows us to do that. It gives us the opportunity to use the funding that we have available to build for the future. And I think the community would have something, a resource that was enhanced within the community and available as part of the regeneration after the pandemic. So I think it's something positive to look forward to. And I think it would be considered a plus for Morton Grove, personally.
Yeah. Thank you for that perspective. And I hope everyone can feel like they can share that perspective, because
Totally.
that's what we need. This is how we proceed. So
I mean, to be honest with you, and I voted for the pool deal back in March when this first started, and I had a sign up in my yard and everything like that. And right now, if the referendum was now, I'd vote against that too. So that's just where I'm coming from. I get your perspective. It's a positive thing. It's a wonderful thing for our community. Something we need. Something I will use with my 3 kids. But I can't right now.
mm-hmm.
So the other thing too, that the funds that we already have saved towards this are earmarked and can only be spent on building improvements, Mick, if that makes a difference. We have separate funding for operating reserves and that kind of thing. So understanding, I mean, being concerned with the optics is absolutely on my mind as well, but that those are not funds that I would then be able to use almost for just about anything else. I couldn't say I need to buy books with that money now. I legally can't do that. So these funds are really earmarked very specifically.
Sure. No, I get that too. I just, some guy down the street doesn't know that, and he's worried about making his mortgage payments and his taxes are going up. And he's out of a job. So.
Yeah. So I'm, and again, I always try and kind of read how everybody's feeling. We can let everybody stew about this, and we can table this to our next meeting.
Look, I didn't want to take the steam out of anybody's, wind out of anybody's sails. Sounds like you guys want it. Let's go for it. That's totally fine.
You know what I mean? That's what I was just going to say. I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion just for the fact that,
yeah,
just moving on to the next step. I totally hear, I respect your point of view. I really do.
And I feel like I'm heard. So we're fine.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve the standard form of agreement between owner and architect for the youth service construction. Did that make sense, Pam? Okay. Again, this is just moving on to the next step for now.
I'll second it.
Okay. And we'll do a roll call for that.
Emily, can you repeat your motion to approve the standard form of agreement? And then what did you say?
Oh, you know, I just, look at me. I got too cocky. I took off the contract. Okay. Make a motion to approve the contract of the standard form of agreement between owner and architect for the construction, for the youth service construction. Do you like how I got closer to the screen too? Did that help? I don't even know.
Thank you. Okay, Lima seconded. Okay, Mesa Jack,
Yes.
Monzone. Eric, are you there?
I'm
Is
Oh,
there-
unmute yourself.
so-
Got it.
Monzone.
Yes.
Why,
We
Is
still
I
can't.
can't see him. Is he saying yes?
Is that thumbs up, thumbs down?
Do thumbs up or thumbs down, Eric?
oops.
You just did both.
Are you saying thumbs up?
Was that?
Okay.
All
why don't you-
right, thank you.
Eric is a yes. Pelletier, yes. Puzo.
Yes.
Swanson.
No.
Gotcha. Jost.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you get?
Oh, sorry, Gonzalez. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. And I think Pam, you know, I'm gonna just go ahead and say that for Pam, but if you continue, if you peruse this even further, you continue to have questions, need additional feedback, perspective from the staff or whatever, I think that, you know, we should all feel free to do that. So, okay.
I would like to say that I think this is a good first step, taking mixed concerns into, I mean, I'm absolutely recognizing that those are valid. But I feel like even if we do nothing else with the more detailed plans, these are, I think Courtney and I can speak for Courtney a little bit, that we feel like this would be a direction that we would want to go in the future, no matter when that building actually happens. So I think that having the more detailed plans positions us well for the future, even if we do nothing else but get those plans, so that, if we say in another 2 years, if we say, okay, this is all we can do right now, but if in 2 years we can do it, we can say we've got these really detailed plans, here, how much would it cost, those kinds of things. So it puts us one step closer, no matter when that happens.
How long do these plans last? How long, if you sign this contract, like if you decide you don't want to start in the fall and you want to start next summer or whatever, later on, can you do that? Or
It is my understanding that you can. The plans themselves wouldn't necessarily change. The only thing that would potentially change with some of them would be, and a lot of that would depend on when construction would actually start, would be if there were any changes to building code or electric code or something like that. But, if they move forward with actually developing the plans, those are architectural plans and then could be used for getting pricing and the next step, even if it's, 2 years from now. Is my understanding, but I can verify that, but that is my understanding.
So we're only approving the architectural plans. So this is what they've come out with and this is how much it's going to be. Yeah, that's what we're approving, or we have approved, or
Basically, yeah. You're approving the contract, but we can stop the contract at any time, at any point in this process.
Can I quick? Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes?
There he is.
Tammy?
yeah.
Tammy? Okay. Quickly, with the, because actually, when Mick brought up the pool, someone asked me the same question in terms of, right now, I know you're still working on funding wise in terms of the long term. And do you, where are you at in that process? I know that obviously the initial from the building sale, but for the rest of the, if you were going to budget this out, I think that's one of the, because of the, someone asked me, is it going to be $11 million to my property taxes again? Not me, but someone asked me about it.
So there will be no, okay, so here's where I'm at in terms of thinking about the budget and stuff for next year. So I usually start that process in June, usually get stuff from the department managers in July or so and start putting that all together. I'm obviously already thinking about next year's budget and what that potentially looks like. At no point in this whole process would we go for referendum or anything like that. We're not doing that. That's never been on my plans. If anything, I anticipated asking for like another 3.5% increase in levy for next year. I'm not going to do that now. I anticipate at this point that I will keep the levy flat. Obviously, with the change in the way that we're serving the public right now, there are some expenditures that we're not going to make. And so, you know, we'll be looking at, and I'm already in the process of looking at the budget and trying to figure out, again, in the very cloudy crystal ball, you know, what, you know, we got all our monies for with the first property tax bill. Those came in pretty much before this all started. And so right now I'm looking at, you know, what's going to potentially happen in August. You know, I've talked to the village about that. They don't really have a clear sense. They were hoping, they were sending out water bills, and I don't live in Morton Grove, so my apologies. I don't know if you guys got your water bills, but Ralph Chewinski, the village administrator, had mentioned that that was going to be their first indication to give them some feeling for what potential, who might not be able to pay some of their bills and that kind of thing. So is you know, how much of the water bill payments they got. So that was going to be the village's kind of first inkling of what the future may hold. I did read something this morning, or was it yesterday? I can't remember, about Cook County taxes. I believe that they are, there's no penalty. You can pay the property taxes, I think, through October 1st. And there's no penalty on your tax. Obviously, there's no tax deferments or anything like that. There is some discussion about what impact that could have. I think, you know, I was also at the trustee program this afternoon, and I had already started to look at this, but you know, thinking about, okay, getting the first half of the taxes is great, but the second half, maybe I'm going to get 30% less, which is kind of what, you know, very ballpark figure people are kind of planning on. So, you know, just like when I do the regular budget, I plan for my revenues to be lower than I think they really realistically may be, and for my expenditures to be higher, just so that we've got some cushion, because I want to make sure that we don't run out of funds to provide the programming and the services that we do. So I'm taking a look at all of the budget right now and seeing what I think I'm actually going to spend, where I think I can see some savings, knowing that I've got something like this in the back of my, you know, our minds that we may want to fund. The state of Illinois has not said anything about putting a moratorium on the increase in minimum wage. So I've got that to take into consideration for salaries of next year and those sorts of things. So as of right now, I anticipate keeping the levy flat for the 2021 budget. And I'm certainly looking at the budget for the rest of this year and trying to make some educated guesses about where I think we're going to end up in terms of funding. So Eric, kind of a long answer to your question. My hope, well, at any point that we do this, I would hope not to increase anyone's taxes. So that we would do this through either the savings of money, or it would be in conjunction with, you know, just raising the, I don't say not raise anyone's taxes, but it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. It wouldn't be going to referendum. It would be, you know, in a couple of years, do we raise the levy 2%, those kinds of things, which.
No, that's because like I said, that's why, I mean, I know what Mick's talking about in terms of that, you know, like that, so, you know, that sudden increase which happened in March, and now there's going to be additional, if it's additional public monies, he's right, everyone's going to be pretty pissed.
So, you know, unlike, and we're not a district. I mean, you know, the village has to levy our taxes for us and stuff. And the Park District did pass that referendum. So we will not be going out for a referendum or anything like that.
No, it's all public monies. I mean, but at the same time, you know, like if we're asking for more public monies, yeah, of course I was going to start the questioning, and they have reason to. So okay, that's it. Thank you.
Well, the amount of money we have from the sale is what,
So right now, there's about 400 and, what is the financial say, 430, 450 thousand in the special reserve, which is the fund that we can use specifically for this. So again,
Right.
you know, I mean, I don't know what I'll end up with at the end of the year that I might be able to put towards this. I mean, because like I said, not being in the building, it changes some of the expenditures that we had planned on.
Right, and
So.
we have to take a loan to fit.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have an email into the bank right now, and I don't know, I mean, if we decided to proceed with something, once we had the plans and that kind of thing, what I would hope to do would be to do a line of credit rather than a firm loan, and that way that gives us a little bit more room. It's similar to what we did when we did the renovation. They initially started out with a fairly significant line of credit. It was like $750,000, and then only ended up needing about $200,000 of it, and then converted that to a term loan. So again, this is more long-term, but it would be my hope that if we could potentially do something like that, if we had to.
Okay, so you're gonna follow the same way we did before.
That's kind of my thinking right now.
Okay. Okay.
All right, good questions. Thank you, guys. Okay, so we're actually going to move back up in the agenda to the executive director update. And I hope everyone got that there. This evening, Pam sent out an extra email. I wasn't sure if that was what you were going to go through first, but yeah, but that was, did everyone get that last email from Pam?
I don't know.
It was, Carlotta, I think I sent it to you.
The one from like 5:30 tonight?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I only skimmed it
Okay.
right before I signed on the second one, but I did receive it.
Yeah. I think I got
As it is just this around this time, things change daily, so there's always an update. So and you know, Pam, I'm just gonna go ahead and give you a kudos for now. I know how exhaustive and extensive it is to create those kind of response plans, and so I feel for you. I'm sending you a virtual hug. I know that's it's a lot of work, and it's just one domino after another. Once you think of one thing, it affects everything else. So I'll let you go ahead with your update.
No, I just, obviously the librarian's report was extra long this month. We had 2 months that we combined it with, but also just, I will be completely honest, at this point, it is a little hard to remember before March 13th. So, you know, the past 8 weeks have pretty much been all COVID-19 related stuff all the time. And, you know, as Emily mentioned, you know, we literally will plan something one day, and with, you know, by the afternoon or by the next day, we're rethinking it and replanning and stuff like that. So it's been quite a bit of work. And not only for me, the department heads have really stepped up. I mean, not that they haven't always stepped up, but, you know, even more so in this situation. And, you know, the public service staff have done great. We've gotten really positive feedback from everyone about all of the virtual services that we're doing. And so, you know, kudos to all of them. I'd like to give a really big shout out to Jeff, who is actually on the call tonight, who's worked very hard with me as we've thought about, and Helga as well, she's not on tonight, but, you know, what the next phase of service would be. And we're, you know, we're anticipating that it's a no contact curbside return and pickup service. So the document that I sent out at 5:30 was the latest revision. Jeff had worked on a plan that, and we had worked on a plan that originally, our original plan had been to start services out of the building by allowing all of the items that are checked out to come back. Right now, as I said in my written report, the Morton Grove cardholders have over 13,000 items checked out. So at some point, we need to get those materials back and either get them back on our shelves or get them sent to the libraries that own them. So the first part of our plan had always been to allow returns. And we went back and forth a lot about how to do that, and ended up with this latest version. We've ordered extra bins that both fit in the book drop, but initially we're not going to put them in the book drop. We're just going to allow, for the first month, we're going to have every other week, couple of days allowing returns. So once we decided that's how we were going to do it, we were originally thinking that we would have to quarantine materials for 3 days. Now the science, we think, is saying 7 days. So out of an abundance of caution, and because we are using time as our only mechanism for getting rid of the virus, we're not doing any cleaning off of materials or anything like that, for a variety of reasons. And everyone has pretty much said that time really is the best remedy for this. So we did tweak the plans to extend that quarantine period from 3 days to at least 7 days. And then we do not know at this point when Rails will begin delivery again between different libraries. We were all initially waiting for this, and I think I mentioned in my written report, this study between that was being sponsored by the IMLS, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and OCLC, and Battelle Labs, that they were doing real life studies. You know, Battelle Labs has the virus, and so they've been putting it on library materials and trying to see how long it lasts on different types of materials. You know, paper, cardboard, Mylar, plastic DVD cases, and then also kind of how people actually treat those materials and what they do with them. There was a lot of consternation at first. Someone from the CDC was saying, oh, the library is a low, what's the phrase they use, but basically they said, oh, this is a low impact, industry, and it's not going to make, any difference. You don't have a lot of people there, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's like, oh my God, have you been into a library lately? That sort of thing. But then, and someone literally said it at one of the first webinars on this, saying, oh, well, it's not like people sneeze on your books. And everyone went, yeah, that's exactly what people do, and then some. So, the CDC and everyone kind of took a step back and said, okay, maybe we need to rethink this a little bit. And so we're kind of waiting on what those studies say. Rails had first indicated that they were not going to start delivery again until those studies were done. Those are taking longer now than they thought. So right now, the first phase of those studies are May through August. Obviously, we can't wait till August. None of us are going to wait till August. I don't, unless we open up things again and we go backwards and we're all in another really strict stay-at-home order. But I don't think Rails is going to wait for August either. But so now we're going with what we think the best science is, or what people have told us the best science is to quarantine materials for 7 days. So that's the latest iteration of this particular plan. We are looking at some different softwares that will allow people to make reservations for when we start doing the curbside pickup of materials. So things that either people already have on hold or that are from within our building. As you can imagine, there's a lot of talk among the CCS libraries as well. Will we allow pickup from patrons from other libraries, which is something that we've normally done in the past? Our goals are so different now, it can be hard to get our heads around it a little bit. But, we're going to start out probably limiting services to just our own patrons. We want to minimize the time that people spend driving around. At least right now, we're still at a stay-at-home order. Just this afternoon, up until this afternoon, there was the indication that Northeastern Illinois was probably not going to be ready to move into phase 3 at the end of the month, phase 3 of Pritzker's Restore Illinois plan. But then this afternoon, it was announced probably at his press conference, I didn't see it, that it looks like possibly that we would be able to move into phase 3. So that's we're operating under that belief that we'll be able to start those returns June 1, probably May 31st and June 1. And then we would start curbside pickup, so people could either pick up things that they had on hold, they could call the library. We would create bags for them. We're doing it will be no contact, and we would start that in mid-June. So there's more details in the plan that I sent you. So if you haven't had a chance to read that, you may want to look at that and then let me know if there's any questions. I did send copies of our reopening document, that 12 or 13 page document that I sent out whenever that was, that I'm in the process of updating that because the dates and stuff are obviously changed, and there's some, more information and tweaking that I'm going to do to that. But I did send that document and a copy of our earlier curbside, our no contact curbside service to Ralph Chwinski at the Village. So I have not heard back from him yet, but any feedback we get from the Village, we'll try to incorporate. If they have particular concerns or something like that, we'll incorporate that into our service, but we haven't heard anything from them yet. Jeff is here. So Jeff, do you want to add anything about this?
No, I think you did a pretty good job of explaining it. Pam's done a really great job too of recognizing patron safety along with staff safety and trying to come up with these procedures. And so right now we're just going with what the science is telling us and trying to keep patrons safe and staff safe. So like Pam said, literally we got this news earlier this week that we were supposed to go from a 3-day quarantine to a 7-day quarantine. So who knows what we're going to hear literally next week as more information is coming out. But yeah, I don't know. I think Pam's really being diligent about making sure to keep people safe while we try to phase in some of these new services that we've never done before. So I know staff really appreciates that.
Yeah, I think just information and how thorough Pam has been. Just given the fact that when people bring back items, and all you can do is use time to disinfect them. And I think, Pam, you've been doing a great job of communicating with the staff, being transparent, putting out the facts so they know that they can feel safe and when they come back to work is really key. And you've been doing a great job with that. And I'm actually really glad, Jeff, Courtney, to tell you, Teresa, that you're all on. Thank you all for everything that you guys have been doing. There's been so much positivity being put out by the library. And I know that people that's what they search, they look for it from the Morton Grove Library. You guys continue to do that during a very mentally hard time for everybody. So so thank you all for all your energy and all your efforts into this. This is, I don't think anybody's job is the same as it was at the beginning of March. Everybody's job is different. So thank you for staying in there, rolling with the punches, and showing the patrons that they still are a priority. So really, thank you.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about the staff. I mean, they really, they took this really well and they ran with it, and we have such an amazing staff. I mean, we all, I've talked to all the other directors in our area, constantly, pretty much, particularly since this has started. And, our staff, rivals none of them. That's probably not the way I wanted to say it, but I mean, I wouldn't trade our staff for any of them, even if they're bigger libraries, more money, whatever. They've really done a great job. Special shout out to particularly the youth services staff who had pretty much, and I think Courtney mentioned in her written report, had designed the summer reading program completely. And it's a lot of work for those of you that know that. I mean, they plan, zillions, literally, it seems like, programs and that kind of thing, and had to revamp that completely on the fly. And, that was a ton of work, and they did it pretty happily, and I think they've come up with something that we think the residents will like, even though it's not the same as our old ones, or as our typical summer reading program. And the adult services staff has been outstanding, developing programs and just thinking of all these different ways that they can continue to stay connected to our patrons, and both those that can access things online and those that cannot. And so You know, they're very concerned about those people that may not have access to internet and how we can continue to serve them. So, you know, we're focused on that as well. And certainly marketing has gone above and beyond with everything that they've done and the kind of creation of the, you know, your library at home and the digital products that they're putting out and the constant emails and stuff. And shout out to Karina for the other document that I sent you this afternoon, late this afternoon, was the graphic that Karina had created. And we're going to work on making that, kind of jazzing that up even more for, you know, subsequent months. But I think it's a nice snapshot of everything that we're still able to do. And, you know, and the positive feedback that we have gotten from patrons, and we have heard a lot from them. So it's been really fun to get that kind of interaction in a way that we maybe haven't in the past in quite the same way. I did want to shout out, especially because Natalia and Melissa are both here. As I mentioned in my report, Natalia will be retiring still. I might cry. I will try not to. And Melissa has agreed to act as interim, but I did want to say thank you to Natalia for all the years of service, and I will cry. And we will miss her very much.
We will miss you, Natalia. Thank you for, I reiterate that. Thank you for your years of service. Thank you for checking in on our homebound patrons, for I know being Pam's right hand with a lot of things. We will miss you so much, and we wish you, I know you're not gone, you know, tomorrow, but we wish you nothing but the best.
So I don't, like I said, I just wanted to go over the curbside plan and give you guys a chance to ask us any questions. I do think that our written reports are fairly comprehensive, but certainly if you have any questions for myself or, you know, any of the other staff that are online, let us know now, or, you know.
I do have a question about, I don't know if it's a question, more of a, I don't know, concern, maybe it's something just to ponder, but with the whole curbside pickup, and I know it's something that you'll continue to develop, is there any thought about putting out communication to the patrons? Because I could just see people getting their books, getting a Clorox wipe with bleach, and wiping down the book. I mean, and I know you can't control everything. You know that's, you know, probably going to happen a little bit.
No.
And you know, and it's a high anxiety time. People don't know what to do. So what they can control, they can get out a Clorox wipe and wipe everything down. So is there any thought about maybe communication as to, here's how you handle your book? I don't know. So.
I will say that is one thing I have not thought of, so thank you. Obviously, we're going to be doing a lot of marketing related to this, and so we can certainly put that in any PR pieces and marketing pieces that we have. It's one of the reasons that we're choosing not to do any kind of disinfecting of materials is, you know, there's a few reasons. You know, the chemicals themselves can be problematic for people, even though we're going to have gloves and that kind of thing. It can destroy the materials. I mean, the other thing is that, you know, let's say you get a book back and you're going to wipe down the outside of the book, but what are you going to do for all the pages inside that someone has touched? You know, you might wipe down the outside of a CD case, but are you wiping down the inside? So those are some of the reasons that we're choosing just to go with time. And we will certainly, as we put up the marketing pieces on this and the instructions and how this will work for staff or for patrons, not only will we be quarantining the books, this is the other thing. It gets really insane when you start to think about it. So what we anticipate Rails will ask us to do is have a 7-day quarantine period. When something comes back, then we will send it in transit. Let's say it has to go to another library. So that's a couple of days. And then, or let's say we request a book, an item from somewhere else. When our item gets to that library or something comes to us from another library, they're telling us that we should quarantine it again for 7 days. So, you know, we're looking at kind of changing the length of time an item will be kind of out of commission, if you will, from, you know, a few days to 3 weeks now. So potentially 3 weeks. So there's a lot of different things related to that. But yeah, we'll absolutely include, something along the lines of, we understand people are concerned, but we've done these steps to make sure that your materials are to guarantee as much as we can that your materials are virus free.
Right.
We hope, we would ask that you not wipe them down with Clorox because it's bad for the materials. It will be more elegantly stated than that,
Right.
but I had not thought of that. So I did make a note of that, Emily. So thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something to maybe just ponder. How do you feel on your stock of PPE for the staff and for the facility? Are you guys, because I know so much is out of stock right now.
Yeah, I think we're doing okay. Jeff, if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. If you can talk a little about some of the things that we've gotten already.
Yeah, we've gotten a couple thousand gloves in stock now. We were lucky and we got 300 disposable aprons already. I think we received already 500 disposable masks because we weren't for sure. One reason why we got those is for staff, but also if patrons are ever able to come back in the building, would we require people to put it on if they didn't have one as they were coming in the building? What else do we have? I know Helga is in the process of making and ordering the cloth masks for staff to use in the building when they're in the building. Yeah, but right now we've actually been pretty lucky in that we've been able to actually get some of that stuff. Now the hand sanitizer, I don't know. That's what Ed would order.
Ed has been able to get quite a bit of hand sanitizer. We've got some wipes. We're okay with like paper towels and those kinds of things. So Ed has been really on top of that. He's also, which I did think I mentioned in my written report as well, he's been regularly checking on the building, gets the mail, that kind of thing. But he's spent a lot of time the past few weeks fashioning plexiglass shields, which are now installed at all the public service desks. It's just such a crazy way to think about, it's such an opposite. This goes against everything that we want to do as librarians, this idea of limiting the number of people in the building, that kind of thing. But so he's worked on that. We're getting, signage and stuff for maintaining social distancing for when we can start to have people in the building, though I don't know when that will be. I don't anticipate it'll be for a while yet. But some of the other cleaning supplies he's been able to get as well. So initially a lot of that stuff was hard to find, but he has been really diligent in checking all of his different suppliers and scoping things out. So I feel like we're in a good place for bringing staff into the building. When we bring them into the building, it will be on a staggered basis. I don't anticipate that anyone will be in the building for, their normal, 7.5 hours a day any longer. So Jeff's been creating teams both for the curbside stuff, but then we're also assigning different youth services and adult services librarians to those same teams so that if, God forbid, someone does come down with COVID or has been exposed to COVID, that we can quarantine or ask just a smaller group of people to self-quarantine, so we don't have to, say, oh, everyone has to be self-quarantined or whatever, so we can continue to provide service. As Jeff said, we will be giving all staff 2 cloth masks. They're welcome to use one of their own or whatever, but we thought this way, we're at least starting out that way, and then have paper masks for either, other staff to use if they forgot or something like that, or I was thinking that I would require, well, right now it is required. I mean, in Morton Grove and Skokie area and in that whole area that people wear masks. And I thought that I would require that of patrons once we started letting them into the building. However, I don't want my staff to be shot in the head. I mean, it's really frightening, some of what's going on. That being said, I still do think that it will be one of the things that we will strongly encourage patrons to do once we start letting them in the building. But again, that will be probably a few months down the road from now. But all staff will be required to wear masks. My staff, I can require to wear masks, and I will do that, even when we're doing curbside and when we're in the building with each other.
Any discussion among village admin about more, I don't want to, I would say it's more presence of possibly just maybe police kind of circling open facilities that could potentially run into resistance to people not wanting to wear the recommended, you know what I mean? Like once you said that, I mean, not that you want like a policeman stationed at every door, but you know, any talk about that, maybe just extra kind of circles around the building kind of thing, or.
Yeah, I'm sure that will come up. We're not there yet at that. I mean, just because I think for all of us, I mean, you know, the village is still, as far as I know, I mean, they're all still working from home, that kind of thing. It's been about a week, I think, since I last talked to Ralph. Again, time has lost all meaning, so I'm not really, I can't really say exactly. I think it's been about a week since I spoke with Ralph. And, you know, kind of the Morton Grove and Niles Township, you know, we're concerned about, there was a couple big things. I mean, obviously the big thing is, you know, keeping people safe and healthy. That's the big thing. Then the food pantry, the food insecurity, as you can imagine, has skyrocketed. They are seeing, the food pantry is seeing hundreds of more people than they normally do. So that's scary and sad. And so, you know, people are really focused on that, making sure that, you know, we can keep people as food secure as possible. And then the other kind of nicer thing, not kind of, it is a nicer thing. Right now, the village is working hard with the Niles Township schools to honor graduates, 2020 graduates, both 8th graders and seniors. And so that's kind of where a lot of the energy's been this past few days, because they've designated next week. The village actually passed a resolution that the week of May 18th is graduation week, or I can't remember exactly what they called it. So we'll have signs in front of the library. There are tying ribbons on the trees. There's at 8:20 on Wednesday, because in military time, that's 2020. You're supposed to go out and make a bunch of noise for the graduates in Morton Grove. So, so it's fun to kind of focus on. It's nice to be able to focus on some of those more positive things. You know, as we look for silver linings in our current situation. I am sure, Emily, though, that will come up as we get closer to potentially having more people out and about than are right now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, right. I feel like I'm the only one asking questions. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm gonna a couple, like, ride the coattails on positive things real quick, and then I have a question for Pam, and then someone else can talk, and I can shut up. Pam, congrats on the CCS election. That's awesome. That's a great addition. I love it. Congrats to Natalie on the engagement. That's happy. I like that kind of stuff. So, now, Courtney, please share that with us. And Courtney, oh, congratulations on baby Fiona. I hope everyone's happy and healthy. And I'm not even going to ask if you're sleeping, because you're a mom of 3, and I know you're not sleeping. So, but I'm very happy for you, and congratulations. And so my question, Pam, that I just had on your report. So this is literally like a 180. So thoughts on OSG, how they've been able to the supporting of the secure server, you know, going forward. I'm sure you're learning a lot. Do you feel like you need additional resources to support staff and what they need to do at home, or they feel like it's going pretty smoothly?
I feel like it's going pretty smoothly. They have been, you know, they've continued to work with us when we've needed, especially at the beginning, when we transitioned to, you know, we had to upgrade some of the Microsoft Team accounts so that we had that call out functionality, so we could do reference from, you know, varying locations and stuff. They've been able to go into the library, obviously maintaining social distancing. You know, one person goes in with my approval, and Ed is usually there. And do some other server room cleanup and some other updated projects that have been in the past a little bit difficult to schedule, because, you know, they're trying to do it around staff being in the building or patrons being in the building. So that's been really, they've been able to you know, knock out a few of those kind of lingering projects. And they were super responsive. Again, with Natalia leaving and her not coming into the building, any longer, we were able to arrange so that she could get access to the file server for her file so she could start doing some cleanup and stuff after, as for any of us that have been in a place a long time, after, 28 years, Natalia has some things that, she was hoping to go through and clean up a little bit before she left. So they were able to work with her to get that done. But I feel like they've been really super responsive and, have been doing their regular, maintenance of the system and that kind of thing, but then also helping us out where necessary.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Pam, for any of our staff? I know they all did a really great, thorough job on their reports. Anybody else have any questions? Staff reports, questions for Pam? Okay. I know we're kind of flipping all around in this agenda. That's okay though. We do have to go over the financial reports.
Yes, so because you guys did pass the resolution, Teresa has been going in about every week, every 10 days to make sure that invoices get paid. We get a lot of them via email, and so I've been okaying those for her to pay. There's 2 months of the financials. We are still in a fairly a good position financially. We're on track with everything. I do anticipate that over the next few months we might just see some divergence. Either there's lines that we have to expend more than we thought, and obviously lines that will expend less in terms of the income statement. I just want to make sure that everyone did get the March and April, because I think I messed up on one of them, and you might have, the first email where I sent the financials, you got 2 months of April. And then just if anyone has any specific questions about any of the checks or any other expenditures, but mostly everything we've been doing has just been routine things, or things that are related to preparing the building for either staff and or patrons to come in. We did actually just create a separate budget line for keeping track of COVID related expenses, because I am going to try to apply for some monies from the Illinois Emergency Management Agency. We are eligible for some of those funds potentially, but there's lots of paperwork that's involved in that. So we are keeping track of those expenditures so I can try to get some of our monies back if we can. But if anyone has any questions for me, or Teresa is here as well, let me know.
For any of the, am I on? Yes, okay. For any of the programming, any of the vendors that have, maybe vendors is the wrong thing, performers, or, for the programming, have there been had a lot of refunds or anything like that, or not so much?
Not so much. I'm gonna say no. And Natalia, and I know Melissa is on as she's watching. So Melissa, let me know either in chat or something if you want to say anything. We did refund, or we did pay a couple of performers whose initial programs, like kind of, things that have been, checks that had already been cut for them. And they were long time, program presenters or performers for us, and they were minimal at that point. And I think that there are a few performers that we are starting to pay to provide online or digital programming. I see that Natalia has unmuted herself. So Natalia, you do know more about the specifics about the performers, if you want to say anything.
Well, you are correct. We voided only a couple of checks that were issued, and we have not paid any performer because we didn't have any in March and beginning of April, and only now we're starting again to issue checks. So we essentially are not spending money in programming the way we were before, and it seems like everything is in order right now.
Yeah, and Courtney, do you want to add anything about that, or?
In March, I know that we ended up sending out the checks to the chess guy and the yoga instructor, who he had to cancel basically last minute on. So he felt like, in their contract, we sort of are supposed to pay them if we cancel them. Obviously, all of this is outside of any kind of like normal cancellation policy. Since then, we haven't paid any large performers or anything like that. We do have a couple of things now booked for the summer, obviously going forward for digital programming. The chess guy is going to do chess lessons and things like that. So hopefully we'll be able to pay these performers who need to make a living too. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, I mean, so many of the kind of self-employed, I mean, basically most of these performers or program presenters are self-employed. And so, they in turn have been developing their things so that it can take them virtual if necessary. The other thing that we did do is we have this Zoom account that I'm using for obviously these meetings and our all staff meetings, because we have weekly all staff meetings on Fridays. But then the adult services department and the youth services department, we did get 2 separate Zoom accounts for them so that so there would be no potential, like, because because the one Zoom account can't be used for like 3 programs at the same time. So we wanted to make sure that we were minimizing the potential of scheduling conflicts. I know staff has been pretty excited about coming up with ways that we can use the Zoom accounts for programming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, we talked about the financials yeah, it's all backwards right now. So should we approve 1 month at a time, Pam, you think, or?
I mean, it's up to you if you want to actually approve them. You can accept them, which probably is the better phrasing to use.
Okay.
Since obviously our regular routine of Carlotta being in weekly to look over the checks and stuff, we're missing out a little bit on that piece of oversight. Obviously, we're keeping all of those things so that we can make sure that they're all correct and you're seeing all of the checks and Teresa's still balancing the books at the end of the month. But I would recommend probably using the phrasing that you approve or that you accept the financial reports as presented would be
Okay.
how I would phrase that.
Okay. Okay. I will make a motion to accept the March and April financial statements as presented.
I'll second
Second.
that.
Okay, unmuted. Okay, so we can vote on that then, unless there's any other discussion about the statements. No? Okay. Monzon?
Yeah.
Pelletier, yes. Puzo?
You're muted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Swanson?
Yes.
Jost?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Masajek?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And we did about 20 flip-flops on that agenda, but that actually brings us, hey, staff, any of you want to share anything else? Don't want to cut anybody off if anybody wanted to share anything else.
Hi, it's Teresa. Question for you. Okay. Like St. Martha, they're billing us for April and May. And then also our cleaning service. So I went ahead and paid April because we were supposed to open for St. Martha. And then the cleaning also, but I have not paid May. And I've reached out to them and let them know why I was not paying.
So the cleaning is, we've actually talked to them And I thought I had copied you on that, and Teresa, I may not have, so my apologies. I'll go through my mail and make sure that you
No
get that.
worries.
The cleaning company, Ed and I have spoken to them,
Uh-huh.
and we are, they've credited us partial payment, and then they will be extending our contract. So that,
Oh, okay.
so yeah.
Okay. All right. And St. Martha, I have no
I mean,
idea.
contractually, we're obligated to pay those, and you know,
Okay.
especially once staff start coming into the building, that is where staff usually parks. So we will continue to pay that unless there's some reason that there's another extended period of time that we would be out of the building, and then we would
Okay.
have to renegotiate that contract with the Archdiocese of Chicago. But,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'll go ahead and pay May.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. That's all.
All right. Anything else? Anybody? No? Well, then I will, end up being kind of a long one. Well, I'll just say, I hope everyone is healthy, staying well, staying sane. We'll get through this one day.
I did want to ask a quick question. The policy committee, I know that we were supposed to meet, I believe, at the end of March for some, you know, normal policy reviews. That obviously didn't happen. I am in the process of updating some of our policies, but then also incorporating the new policies that fall under the FFCRA that apply to us. If I reach out to you in email, would you guys be available to set up a Zoom policy committee meeting so that we can get those approved, so we can get them, the staff is aware of them, obviously, because they're required by law to be notified of them, but I do want to get them in our policy manual. So would that be okay to reach out
Yes.
to you guys? We could set something up. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, that was all I had. I just didn't want to forget that.
That's okay. I didn't want to cut you off either. So, thank you, Pam. Thank you to all the staff. I know I speak on behalf of all the trustees. We really do appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you all. We send you the best. Yeah. And so, I almost forgot. 9 o'clock. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Just something real quick too. If we do in fact move to phase 3 by the end of May, there would be the potential for, you know, the governor's order said that these meetings could be held via Zoom to perform essential business. I do feel like the things we've done have been essential, but there may be the potential for meeting in person as long as we could maintain social distancing. So just so you're aware that we may at that point be required to meet in person again, depending on what the governor says with the Open Meetings Act and whether or not this will be extended the ability to meet via Zoom. So I just want to, you know, put that in the back of your heads as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Well.
Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care.
You too. How's your job? Oh. Okay. Scott, this is Pam Loeffler. I'm the director. I'm not have anything that you wanted to say, or did you have any questions? I'm sorry, we didn't allow we had public participation earlier on in the meeting, so, no?
No, I'm just using it in amazement. No,
Oh, okay.
no comments.
Okay. Have a good night. If there's
I was just
anything,
waiting for you to end the meeting.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding you.
I was just waiting for you to end the meeting.
Oh, okay, no problem. Have a good night.